I realize that a lot of my audience out there spend a lot of time on Twitter or on social media in general. And I think the internet has kind of designed itself around this idea of taking up as much of your time as possible because the systems that are in place on these social media platforms need to sell you things. They need to direct you towards the popular conversation. So, of course, the algorithm recommends you tweets that your friends liked and they recommend you the most popular tweets that are on the platform. They have specific tabs for moments and so on. I mean, on the fucking sidebar, they show you what everybody's talking about, hashtag Jake Paul, etc. So, like, when it comes to social media, it can easily eat away 3 hours of your day without you even noticing it because you're constantly going through that feedback loop of liking and sharing different things, of posting different things, and then people like and share those things, and it's a constant stream of dopamine to your brain. It's basically triggering all of the pleasure centers that are in your brain that you would typically use to do something that takes a bit more time. And this is a learned behavior. Everyone got onto social media because their friends were doing it, and so they decided to do so because that's what everyone else was doing. But the problem with this is that if you are truly being forced on social media by your friends, then they are not your friends. Because if they want to talk to you, they will find a way to talk to you that isn't on a platform that you actively dislike. Because I know a lot of people who fucking hate Twitter, but they stay on Twitter anyway because they have Twitter friends. Just leave. Just don't stay on there. There's nothing keeping you on Twitter except yourself. And this is something that I've come to think about in the context of habits, right? The reason why we're on Twitter all the time is because our brain has formed the habit of going there. And it's very important to realize that the brain is plastic. It's molded around the behaviors and around the typical things that you do about the day. So the more that you do something, the easier it becomes because the more your brain gets used to it, it just comes naturally. And so when you get on your computer, the first thing you think about is going to Twitter because it is something that your brain has molded itself around. The neurons have worked themselves around it in that way. And so the only way to reverse this is to change that habit with another habit. Um, and one that I really like is whenever I feel like I have free time, just dead air, there's nothing that I'm supposed to do right now, that I would typically use that time to check Twitter, right? You're on your phone and you don't have anything to do, so you open the app and you look at Twitter. Instead, Instead, uninstall Twitter, and anytime that you get an urge to go on Twitter, look at flashcards. Look at flashcards of, I don't know, learn something. I mean, I'm learning a language, but you can learn something else that's not really your cup of tea. So you look at the flashcards and you keep going through them over and over and over again. And then just any time that you get that urge, look at those flashcards. And then that way, over time, I believe the amount of time it takes to build a habit is about 3 to 2 months, something like that. You build the habit in those 3 months, and then the more you do it, the more it just becomes a natural part of your day, an instinct. Your brain molds itself around that via being plastic, like I said. Um, and so these types of habits, they're not rocket science. They're not stuff geniuses figure out how to build. It's stuff that anybody can build if they just take the time and set their mind to it. Anybody can leave Twitter. It's just a matter of sitting down one day, going on Twitter, realizing you don't like going on Twitter, and then every time you have the urge to do so again, you simply counter that urge by doing something else. And it's better to make positive behaviors consistent than to make negative behaviors consistent. And every single time that you get those strings of dopamine from liking or sharing something or someone liking or sharing your thing, it is far more fulfilling in the long term to get those strings of dopamine from having learned new words, new phrases, new sentences, new alphabets in another language than it is to have temporarily have your image shared and then for people to forget it in the next 3 days. There's no reason to do this. You are actively wasting your time. Literally, everyone watching this video, I don't care if you have a job, I don't care if you're in school, there's going to be a window of time that you have to study something, that you have to make something, that you have to start something. Why the fuck are you not doing it? There's no reason. You have no excuse. Literally, no excuse to not be doing these things. You're just deciding not to. It is your fault. You have to realize that by going on Twitter every single day instead of studying, instead of working on whatever it is you want to work in, that is your fault. No one else's. Don't blame your parents. Don't blame the economy. Don't blame fucking evolution. Don't blame your brain or anything like that, because you can mold your brain into literally whatever you want to. Science says that. Literally, science says you can mold your brain into whatever you want to out of habit structures, out of simply doing something over and over again. Anybody can get swole because that's how the body works. You can just go to the fucking gym and then keep working on it over and over again until eventually lifting becomes easier. It becomes natural to you because you've practiced at it. The brain is the exact same way. It's the exact same way. And so, this isn't just a message to anybody watching this video. This is also a message to myself, because I find myself constantly wasting time. I find myself making mistakes like this, and I'm trying to stop. And I have made a good amount of progress, but the way that you make that progress is by admitting that it is your fault. There's no shame in that. And you shouldn't blame yourself. You shouldn't get mad or upset with yourself that you didn't do it. All I'm asking is that you admit it and that you get better. So, ditch Twitter. Look at flashcards instead. Whenever you get the urge to look at Twitter, look at flashcards instead.